In this video, I'm at Volkswagen HQ to drive a car that Volkswagen did not design. Hubnut, sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Yes, it's arguably the best car that Volkswagen never actually designed. It's the NSU Ro80, and yes, it really does look that odd. They are a very strange thing. Let's start with a little bit of company history. NSU was a company that stopped making cars in the 1930s and moved into scooters instead. But in the late 1950s, they developed the NSU Prince, a little rear-engined, air-cooled, I think, had an overhead cam engine, the NSU Prince, very smart little thing. That developed into a full range of little rear-engine cars, all with transverse engines. But then they decided to put a Wankel rotary engine in one of those cars, to create the Prince Sport, which was a little convertible. And buoyed by this success, even though it wasn't a success, of that car, they developed this, the Ro80. It's a bit like a manufacturer of sheds suddenly breaking out into mansions or something. It's yeah, it was one heck of a technological leap. The power plant was designed by Dr. Felix Wankel, and so Wankel rather than Wankel. And yeah, here's some footage of how the engine works in principle. It's a twin-rotor design. And as you can see, you've got a triangular rotor which goes around in a sort of triangular housing. The weak point of the engine being the apex seals, which is vital for compression. And these engines were so advanced, they led to many warranty claims. NSU ultimately in big financial trouble because they honoured their warranty. Volkswagen stepped in and bought the company. That was largely because they actually wanted the K70, which had been developed alongside the NSU Ro80, was a much more conventional car with an overhead cam, four-cylinder engine and front-wheel drive. And given Volkswagen's front-wheel drive ambitions, even though it owned Audi, yeah, they thought it made sense to buy NSU as well, which meant they then had to honour the warranty claims. But they did finally get to the bottom of the apex seal problems. The problem is it's not a very user-friendly engine. It doesn't tolerate neglect. It doesn't tolerate quick running. It's best to get a Wankel engine up to full operating temperature whenever you use it. There are some things you definitely have to bear in mind. You don't over-rev them either. But yeah, the styling was done in-house by a chap whose name I've managed to forget entirely. Sorry, Mr. NSU Ro80 designer, but he moved on to BMW. And I think you can see more than a hint of BMW in the styling here because of that. It's a very strange shape, very low nose, very curvy, humped rear. It kind of set the scene of the modern car. And the NSU Ro80 was launched just 1 year after the Audi 80 came to market. Yeah, 65 is when these started production, 66 when the 80 came along, and I think it's 67 the Ro80 came into production. I think it had been sort of launched effectively in 66. So it's not just a Wankel rotary engine, we've also got a semi-automatic transmission. Uses a torque converter to do away with the clutch. Quite common at the time. Citroen GSA C-Matic uses the same principle. And it's a manual gearbox with an automatic operation of the clutch, because you still need to separate engine from transmission to effect the gear change. There's an electro switch in the gear lever that detects when your hand's on it, so never ever leave your hand on the gear stick in an NSU Ro80. We've got all independent suspension. Look at this enormous boot at the back. And yeah, just wonderful styling. I wish the sun wasn't quite so strong today. Nice NSU plate on it as well. But I think we'd better start with a nose under the bonnet, frankly. So forward tilting bonnet. Off we go. Now I'm going to have to try and operate that stand. Am I? I see. Okay, so that clips out of there. And there. I wonder where you're meant to rest that. Oh, possibly in that slot there. There we go. So there is the rotary engine. See, a twin rotor design. So that's a rotor there and that's a rotor there. Nominally regarded as 1 litre. but given the combustion chambers move around the engine as it rotates, a bit difficult to get an accurate meaning. But there's a little NSU logo, and here's the gearbox with its inboard brakes. You know, in the 70s, inboard brakes were not that uncommon. Jaguar XJ6 had them at the back, E-Type had them at the back, Rover P6, and other cars had them at the front. 2CV, GSA, DS, Alfa Sud, because it kind of makes sense. It keeps your unsprung weight to a minimum, and it makes it much easier. I'm going to bother with flexes because everything is just there. Yeah, a remarkable little engine. Over the other side we've got the carburetor. Twin carburetors, look, one for each rotor. Later Mazdas would have twin spark plugs per rotor chamber as well, because they discovered that a slightly offset time signature just helped get a better combustion. We've got a fixed fan to the radiator here at the front, servo brakes, disc drum as well, so nice and powerful, McPherson strut front suspension, and semi-trailing rear, I believe. The wipers remain in a left-hand drive pattern regardless of which market the car was designed for. You knew I was going to talk about wipers. Go and have a look in the boot, actually, if the boot's open. It looks like it should be hugely capacious. Oh, and it is rather. Look, we've got the spare wheel is upright. Plenty of space in here. It's got some NSU Ro80 display plates. Yeah, quite nice. Aerial located there. No folding rear seat, I shouldn't be. Oh, no. No. I thought that looked like one for a moment. There we go. Just with a reassuring clunk. Let's jump inside. Lovely textured seats. They're rather smart. And lots of black plastic. I mean, in many ways, this is kind of setting the scene for all modern cars. We've got a reminder of the gear positions here, because it's a dog leg first. So there's a park position, reverse opposite first, and then second and third over here. And you can force the torque converter to slip and pull away in second, but we're going to use the gearbox properly. We've got air, that's always useful to have. Presumably allows more air through these vents. Not sure what that one is. That for posting your mail? Who knows? Cigarette lighter. Oh, that's a fantastic logo. I like that, proper Zippo look. We've got our little Blaupunkt radio here. Might see if that works in a bit. Lots of little lights and switches all over the place, in fact. So we've got lights here and parking lights as well. Oh yeah, there we go. That's nice. Yeah, make of that which you will. What have we got over here? Wipers there. Oh, that's interesting. We've got indicators on the left hand and wipers on the right. Obviously we'll test the wipers. Come on, this is hub nut. Glove box. Oh yeah, quite spacious. I like the fact there's some extra spark plugs in there. And look, it even gives you an arrow to show you which way to open. And it must be said again, German car, beautifully engineered window winders. I don't know what it is about the Germans, but they do like a nice window wiper. We've got, obviously pedals look automatic, there is no clutch. Nowhere to rest your clutch for either. Fresh air vent down here as well. Yeah, so far so conventional, but it just feels quite modern. It really does feel like a modern car. Right, we shall plunk that into neutral, and it's probably time to get the mount set up and go for a drive, but let me do that now. Right, I haven't got the mount set up yet, but I have got the key in the ignition. Oh, there we go, everything comes into life, fuel and everything, and let's see how she starts. That's a noise most unlike any other car. That really does sound like the future. And what's quite interesting is I've driven a Mazda RX-7 and the engine sounded entirely normal in that. I'm just going to turn the heater down. I do not want heat, thank you very much. But maybe now's the time to do a wiper test. Who else does a wiper test with an Invacar in the background? Oh, that sounds like the horn. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. It's a way for wash. Oh. I'm not doing very well lately with wipers and washers, am I? And look, there's a triangle of doom. Look, it doesn't meet. Disappoint. Right, get the mount set up. We'll get on our way. Hold on, we've got the seatbelt to consider. Look, no seatbelt buckles. They just go in here and then you just lock the latch down and that's your seatbelt done. What a neat solution. I like that. Put the crazy seatbelt on, slide it in, there we go. And I went for the clutch. Not necessary. Oh. Okay, braking first is a good idea apparently. Power steering, quite unusual for a smaller car for the time. It's not going into reverse, I don't think. There we go. This is all unedited of me trying to drive a car. Oh, there we go. Now we've got the situation sussed. Oh, off she goes. Whoa! Trying to get out of this crazy car park. It really does feel like driving the future. I haven't driven one of these for a long time. It must be a good 10 years. Very strange having a clutch activate without me doing anything. Slight crisis going on there. Managed to flatten the battery on the phone, but I'm slightly alarmed by the high revs, which might explain why it's funking into drive a bit. But away we go. So yeah, no clutch but a manual gear lever, and you can't touch the gear lever at all because if you do, the clutch disengages. That's 60. Oh, my door's not shut properly. Okay, that's a good time to discover that. This test's going really badly. Oh gosh, those brakes are powerful. Oh, that sounds better, sort of. Slightly worried about that rattling sound, that's not good. Oh, a bit of roly-poly in the handling there. That was 17 second. I've still got issues going on with the window here. Never mind. Yeah, goes well enough. The idle seems ridiculously high though. It's trying to idle at about 2000 RPM. That's a very annoying vibration somewhere. But turbine's smooth at speeds. Very little sensation there's actually an engine at work. That is uncanny, and this is a 1960s design. These are amazing cars. Back in the day, people would throw the engine away and fit a Ford V4, which sounds like madness. I suppose they had the advantage that they actually worked, whereas these rotary engines could be a bit of a pain. Oh wow, that is some impressive body roll. It just seems remarkable looking back that NSU were able to develop a car like this at all, and it's a shame they ultimately paid the price, because NSU got swallowed up by Volkswagen. The K70 became a Volkswagen K70, and the Ro80, impressively Volkswagen let it linger on till 1977, but it never lost the reputation for being a troublesome car. But yeah, so futuristic, so ahead of its time. It's only the suppleness of the suspension that stops it feeling like a 1980s design. It's extraordinary. I mean, I'm not really a fan of a semi-automatic. It seems the worst of all worlds. If you're going to have a torque converter, why not just have a conventional automatic gearbox? But the steering is very nicely weighted and nice and accurate. Doesn't feel over-assisted, but it must have seemed quite unusual for the time, because most family cars did not have power steering. Now the idle seems to have settled down to about 1,000, but I thought it might be an idea to do a acceleration test, because this is one car you can definitely drive quite hard actually. So here we go. First gear selected. Oh, too quick on the change. That's 60. Blimey, yeah, little flying machine. So lots of manufacturers actually investigated the Wankel rotary engine. Citroën was one of them. Citroën even built a rotary engine helicopter, because that's just how mad they were then. I wonder why they went bankrupt. entirely unrelated, I'm sure. But yeah, Mazda was the only manufacturer that managed to make the rotary engine work. And even then, it eventually, hold on, I'm just trying to find a sweet spot for that gear lever. It eventually had to give up because the rotary engines always tend to burn a bit of oil. It's kind of good for them to lubricate the combustion chamber, lubricate even the combustion chamber. Yeah, they're not always the greenest of engines, and they tend to be quite thirsty. There's not ever so much down and dirty torque. It doesn't necessarily feel a very rapid car. It doesn't shove you in the back at any point. It just seems to gather speed quite deliciously. But yeah, it is very soft and wallowy in the bends, even for a Citroen man. But yeah, you can get quite illegal in second gear. That's hilarious, to be honest. But yes, what impresses, I mean, this car is talked about because of the engine, but the whole package is futuristic. This interior is like from another world. I can't really believe it was in production in the 1960s. Self-cancelling indicators are a bit overzealous. See? Just confirmed it will do 50 miles an hour in first. That's 6,000 RPM. I think that's why it doesn't feel so quick. The gearing is very tall. Most cars don't do 50 miles an hour in first gear. So yeah, it's gaining pace, but it's fighting against the gearing, really. Just so astonishingly smooth. What a car. What a complete game changer. I wish I bought one of these when they were still cheap and relatively plentiful. I say that about almost every car, but then it's true. But this really is something else. They do need a bit of specialist love and attention to keep them going, but yeah, hard to compare. And that's why I love older cars. It's the sheer variety. At the time you could buy this car in the late 60s, you could buy an Austin Maxi, a Renault 16 for front wheel drive, Citroen DS if you want absolutely complete bonkers, or maybe you'd like to buy something smaller and rear engined, or something mid engined, or yeah, we'll go for second gear for cruising through villages. Now front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, four wheel drive, yeah, and different types of engine. This one has no pistons, which makes it unusual. Yeah, it's amazing times for variety, which you just don't get with modern cars. Every manufacturer makes the same facsimiles of the same car. Magic. Oh, handbrake's not off properly. So smooth. What an extraordinary car. And it must get better as the familiarization grows. You start feeling more and more comfortable with this car. It must just get more and more enjoyable. Superb. Oh, genuinely gutted to be taking this car back. I could spend all day in it, but I've got to get my Invercar to Basildon, so there is no time to linger. But yeah, I still can't get over how this car came out of nowhere for NSU and how well developed the entire car is. the whole thing is a pleasant car to drive. Yeah, truly astonishing. I've been very glad to reacquaint myself with one. So there you go, that's the NSU Ro80, a quite astonishing vehicle. If you ever get the chance to drive one, you should definitely make the most of it. And that concludes my visit to Volkswagen and the test of two non-Volkswagens. It's been a very interesting experience. I hope you've enjoyed both videos. So I shall say, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I shall see you in a future video. Farewell.